Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nur Qalbi. I'm from English Education Department. So first of all, I would like to tell you about the grammatical cohesion. A grammatical device can be understood as a device used to create coherence in a text. That device is called grammatical cohesion. Grammatical cohesion consists of four types: reference, replacement, ellipsis, and conjunction. According to Halliday Hassan, reference can be personal, like including possessive pronouns, and demonstrative, pointing verbally, and comparative, dative or non-dative, which function as a cohesive bond. For example, two boys are playing badminton together. They look very happy. This is an example of a personal reference where their pronoun refers of two boys. There are two types of reference. Two types of referential device like anaphoric and categoric reference. Anaphoric reference and anaphoric reference are used to refer to something or someone mentioned in a text. Reference can refer to backward anaphor and forward cataphor reference. Categoric references are usually used when an author refers to someone or something advancing in the discourse. He said, "Nothing will ever change my love for you, baby." That's what John, my husband, says to reassure me whenever I'm falling back. We can only build our understanding of who he is after looking ahead to the second sentence he actually meant by John. Categoric reference can also be found in spoken discourse such as the following, like, "This is our best singer of the years, that's Michael Jackson." Exaphoric references are used to refer to someone or something externally and not mentioned in the text, like the prefix exo means outside, and the person or event referred to this way is never mentioned by the author in the text. According to Mrs. Corti, exaphoric references are not really cohesive because they don't tie two elements together in the text. However, no less important is the active role of the reader or listener in creating coherence. The following is an example of using exaphoric reference in the text. The government used fiscal policy to increase the amount of money available to the people. In English, determinants are generally used to exaphoric reference as in the example above. While reading the text, the reader doesn't need to ask which government, because when the text is written, the writer already assumes that the reader will know which one. Replacements. Substitution is a type of cohesive device that is used to replace one item in a text with another in another text. Substitution is different from reference, where reference is relationship in terms of meaning, semantics, while substitution is relationship in terms of words, like grammatical. Okay, next I'll tell you about ellipsis. Ellipsis, when we speak or write, it is possible for us to omit a word or phrase instead of repeating it, and we don't need to substitute of a word or phrase. We can only exclude and ensure that the omitted word or phrase is still understandable to the listener or reader, leaving part of the sentence assuming that the previous sentence or context is able to explain its meaning is known as an ellipsis. The ellipsis operator refers to the removal of one more operator. Auxiliary verbs for a verbal group's operator ellipsis is a type of ellipsis that only involves the omission of operators, like the lexical verb always remain intact. In the ellipsis operator, the subject is always omitted from the clause. Ellipsis clause. To understand clause ellipsis, it is first important to know that the clauses in English, like statements, questions, or response, generally consist of two parts, like the modal part and the proposition part. The modal elements consist of a subject and a finite verb. A finite verb refers to a verb that has subject and indicates a tense. There's an example of the omission will not affect the rest of the sentence. The example is Mike helped Robin in the hospital. The process in the hospital is an addition. These clauses in English, which are considered as expression of various speech functions, such as statements, questions, response, and so on. There are two parts sector consisting of a modal element plus and a propositional element. The example is Duke will plant a row of polar trees in garden. The The duck is capital element and row of purple trees in the garden is proposition element. The modal element is consists of the subject plus the finite element in the verbal group, like what would duck do? That is plain rows of polar trees in the garden, and the elements of the proposition consist of residues, like the remainder of the verbal group, any complements or additions that may be present. For the example, will plant a row of poplar in the garden. Next is conjunction. Another type of grammatical cohesive device is conjunction, which is generally used to connect clauses using conjunctive relationships such as adjective, adversative, and causal, or temporal. Heldley and Hassan in English, conjunction. Okay, the adversative and causal or temporal is Hellenic Hassan said. And in English, conjunction have an important function because they join words, phrases, and clauses together. Without using conjunction in discourse, we can only make very simple sentences. There are at least three basic types to English conjunction. They are connected adverb, coordinating conjunction, subordinating conjunction, and correlative conjunction. Coordinative conjunctions are used to connect items that have the same grammatical type. Words, phrases, clauses, and they are usually placed in the middle of a sentence, and a comma is used before the conjunction if both sentences are long. For example, which do you prefer, black or white? The connecting phrase, the first is very cheap, and phrase is very good. There are 7 common coordinating conjunction in English. That is for, and, also not, but, or, and not that, and so. Next is subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunction are words that connect from a free clause to a dependent clause that can stand alone as a sentence. In other words, it does not require additional information to be used. As in a sentence, the sentence like student failed the exam is an example of an independent clause. The dependent clause adds additional information to the main clause. This clause cannot stand alone, which means it depends on the independent clause. It is not a complex sentence. Like, for example, because he doesn't study. It's not a complete sentence, but combine the two clauses into student failed the exam because he didn't study. The completeness of this idea has been expressed, and the information contained is presented clearly enough to explain the thought or meaning of sentence. Next is correlative conjunctions. Correlative conjunctions are pairs of words or conjunctions that are used together to show the relationships between two words, phrases, or clauses. Then this pair of hyphens connects the parts of the sentence that are parallel in the grammatical structure. Next, I'll tell you about lexical device or lexical questions. Lexical questions are through the selection of items that are related in some way to present ones by Halliday. The types of lexical questions are repetition, synonym, and collocation. Furthermore, Halliday and Hassan say that they divide the types of lexical question into repetition, synonym, or almost synonyms like hyperonymy, metonymy, anatomy, and common noun, and collocation. Look, reiteration is a form of lexical question that involves repeating an lexical item at one end of the scale. Like the repetition, like the most direct form of lexical question is the repetition of lexical items, and synonym or synonyms are used to mean same meaning. Lexical question result from the choice of lexical items which are in some respect synonyms with the former. Next is hyponymy, or specific to general. The use of certain words that are used to design members of wider class. For example, flamingo live in water. This bird is white. Next is metonymy. A word or phrase is used to stand in for another word. It results from selecting lexical item which is some sense in part or relation to the previous item. Anatomy, choosing a word that is opposite in meaning to another word. I usually wear dark colors. I don't look good in light colors. Like the common noun in this type of question, two items have the same reference as an example. Next, I'll tell you about the collocation. Collocation is a type of lexical cohesion that results from the use of one word to another. According to Dictionary Cambridge, collections are defined as a word of phrases that are frequently used with other words of phrases in a way that sounds correct to people who have spoken the language, though it relies but may not, expected from the meaning. Like example, the price fast train. Fast is a collocation of train, and fast would not sound natural. Collocation can be made from the combination of verbs, nouns, adjectives, and so on. I think that's all for me. Thank you for your attention, and I do apologize for any mistake. I hope you caught the point. And thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.